Coming up on Global Business, fiscal buffer. China's fiscal revenue growth hit its highest level in the first 7 months, giving more leeway for additional stimulus in the rest of 2026. Inflation pain. Economists warn that Iran's economic crisis has entered a dangerous new phase, with annual inflation hitting 66%. Supply squeeze. Oil is set for a second weekly rise as the U.S. vows to impose economic sanctions on Iran, and hopes of reopening the Strait of Hormuz remain dim. Good evening from Beijing and welcome to this edition of Global Business on CGTN. I'm Lulu. China's fiscal revenue expanded at a steady pace in the first 7 months of this year. National general public budget revenue reached more than 14 trillion yuan, or about $2 trillion. Now that was 5.8%, a year-on-year increase, accelerating by 1.1 percentage points from the first half reading. Tax revenue, a key indicator of economic vitality, grew by 6.7% over the same period, continuing its upward trajectory. On the expenditure side, national fiscal spending rose 1.3% from a year ago to 16.3 trillion yuan, and outlays on healthcare and medical services recorded notably faster growth, largely driven by higher spending on child-rearing subsidies and increased government transfers to the Basic Medical Insurance Fund. And at a news conference today, Vice Finance Minister Liao Ming said China will roll out additional fiscal measures to bolster growth. The China International Fair for Trading Services, or CIFTIS, is just over 2 weeks away. And this year, the event is placing a significant emphasis on artificial intelligence and cross-border finance. CGTN's Yu Hongyu is at a press briefing in Beijing with the latest.
The 2026 China International Fair for Trade in Services, or CIFTIS, will be held in Beijing from September 9th to 13th. Nearly 70 countries, regions, and international organizations have confirmed their participation. That includes over 300 Global 500 brands and industry leaders. Financial services will be a major highlight. Organizers say this section will focus not only on how AI can make financial services faster and more convenient, but also on how finance can support technological innovation and the development of new quality productive forces.
For the financial services section, the theme is Smart Innovation Financial Synergy. The focus is AI, with an emphasis on tech finance and cross-border finance. The program will include forums, side events, and business matchmaking, along with 4 platforms for showcasing products, sharing policies, connecting partners, and demonstrating the latest financial technology.
This upcoming fair comes as China's services trade sees steady growth. According to the Ministry of Commerce, China's services imports and exports totaled 3.78 trillion yuan in the first half of 2026. That's about $556 billion, an 8.3% increase from last year.
Services now drive nearly 70% of global GDP and trade. We serve embassies in 175 countries, 80% of UN agencies in China, and 85% of Fortune 500s. We also lead the market in international settlement, cross-border RMB, and financial markets.
For global financial firms, CIFTIS is a vital gateway. It helps them enter China's growing market and build global partnerships.
CIFTIS is a platform, a bridge, and a window. It lets financial firms showcase innovation and business strengths. We're presenting new payment methods like Apple Pay and how our tech ensures secure transactions. It connects us with partners, banks, acquirers, merchants. It also offers a view of booming services trade globally.
This year's CIFTIS marks the beginning of China's 15th five-year plan period. It is also a major platform for China's high-level opening up. More than 300 industry-leading companies from all over the world are expected to take part. Norway serves as the guest of honor country. For 2026, organizers aim to take CIFTIS beyond an exhibition. They want it to become a launchpad for cross-border cooperation. Yu Hongyu, CGTN, Beijing.
China's electric vehicle sector has enjoyed spectacular growth in recent years, but as Chinese EVs expand into global markets, the industry is entering a new phase, one that goes beyond simply exporting cars. Chen Yiling has more.
China's new energy vehicle industry is going global. In just the first 7 months of this year, China exported over 2.9 million in EVs, up 120% year-on-year. In July alone, export reached over 550,000, accounting for more than half of China's total vehicle exports for the first time. But there's something bigger happening behind it.
In this room, China's leading EV makers and global industry players are coming together to ask one big question. What does the next chapter of global auto cooperation look like?
According to industry experts, China's auto industry is entering a new phase of globalization.
Chinese automakers are taking a new approach to going global. In the past, the approach was mainly focused on exporting through trade. Today, more companies are looking to build a presence in local markets. This marks a major step forward in global automotive cooperation.
The playbook is changing, and China's leading EV makers are increasingly looking beyond products and towards long-term localization.
We need to move from exporting products to exporting an entire ecosystem. That means not only building a full service system for local users, but also taking our manufacturing capabilities overseas. By producing locally, we can lower costs, shorten delivery times, and better integrate into the local economy.
And this shift is not limited to passenger cars. Chinese electric heavy trucks are also looking to take the globalization of the EV industry into new territory. In June, Sanytruck just set a new record for China's NEV truck exports.
What customers are most about with electric heavy trucks is reducing their operating costs. One of our biggest advantages is industrial capabilities. From electric trucks to photovoltaics and other new energy solutions, we can bring these capabilities together and build an ecosystem overseas.
But Chinese automakers are not making this journey alone. Global suppliers are becoming part of the equation, increasingly looking to China for the technologies and innovation they need to compete worldwide.
From electrification standpoint, from connectivity standpoint of the vehicle, and also from autonomous driving standpoint, China is leading the world. So if you cannot even winning in China with local OEMs, there's no future for global companies to compete outside China. That naturally is going to help the global companies to expand outside China.
A key message: globalization is becoming a two-way street with opportunities for Chinese and global companies to grow together. Chen Yiling, CGTN, Shanghai.
And still to come here on Global Business. Oil prices are set for a second weekly rise as the U.S. vows to impose economic sanctions on Iran, and hopes of reopening the Strait of Hormuz remain dim.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business. Only on CGTN.
Time now to get a check on other business headlines we're tracking from around the globe. China's National Development and Reform Commission, that's the country's top economic planner, has proposed new draft rules that let domestic firms, organizations, and individuals continue using all existing cross-border channels, such as stocks links and wealth management schemes, to invest overseas. And the Eurozone business activity accelerated in August, with the composite PMI climbing to 52.1. A manufacturing resurgence drove up new orders and export demand improvement and a positive sign. The region added jobs for the first time in 2026. And oil prices are on track for a second weekly rise, with Brent crude futures gaining more than 7% and WTI futures 8% this week. Now, as the ongoing U.S.-Iran war continues to curb crude output from key producers such as Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and the UAE. And in Iran, the economic crunch has moved from the headlines into the checkout line. Families are being forced to rethink how they buy everything, even the basics. Isan Kevani reports from Tehran.
Iran's economic crisis has entered a dangerous new phase. Official data shows annual inflation hitting 66%, but for the poorest families and disadvantaged provinces, that figure has already crossed into three-digit territory. Economists warn that Iran has entered what they call a period of economic misery.
Price tags are outdated before the ink dries. Shopkeepers can't be blamed. They're racing against a clock that ticks every minute. But for shoppers like me, it's chaos. I calculate at the shelf, pay more at the counter, and walk away with nothing but dissatisfaction.
For millions of Iranian families, putting food on the table has become a daily battle, with food inflation peaking at nearly 130% last month. Staples like meat and dairy have become luxuries. The national currency, the rial, has plummeted to record lows, eroding whatever savings families had left. Desperate times have forced millions to take on second jobs. Teachers, government employees, and factory workers are now spending their evenings driving for internet taxi services just to cover basic expenses.
Skyrocketing prices are breaking us. As a retiree, my pension increases are meaningless. And when they can't keep up with inflation, I'm having to borrow left and right just to survive.
Pass by any butcher shop and the prices tell the story. The rich don't notice, the poor can't afford it. That's where we stand as a country. The officials offer slogans, they talk about protecting people's livelihoods, but for millions of us, that livelihood simply doesn't exist anymore.
But perhaps the most telling sign of this crisis is how Iranians are being forced to pay for their daily bread. Once reserved for cars and high-ticket items, buy now, pay later schemes are now being offered for meat, dairy, detergents, and mobile phones. Billboards from companies like SnapPay line Tehran's streets, advertising installment plans for groceries. Delivery services are even advertising half-sized portions of traditional dishes.
Every day, customers pick up an item, glance at the price, and put it right back.
Look at these shelves. They're full. The problem isn't supply. The problem is right here in my hand. This jar of mayonnaise now costs more than many Iranians earn in a day. So they walk in, they look, and they walk out with nothing. That's the real story of Iran's economy today. Ehsan Keibani, CGTN, Tehran.
And over in Washington, talks are underway between the U.S. and Canada. That is after U.S. President Donald Trump announced new tariffs on the country's closest ally that are set to go into effect before the weekend. Here's more from Jim Spellman.
U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to put in place 50% tariffs on up to $20 billion worth of Canadian goods with a Tuesday deadline. He then extended that until Friday night at midnight, saying a deal was in place subject to finalization of documents. Trump and Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney have spoken on the phone multiple times in recent days, and in a virtual meeting on Wednesday, Carney briefed regional leaders on the ongoing negotiations. On Thursday, Canada's Trade Minister and staff were in Washington to meet with their U.S. counterparts.
We had a long, detailed meeting with Ambassador Greer and his colleagues. You may notice Madame Charette remains in the building to continue that work. Canadians expect us to get a deal that's in the economic interest of Canada and Canadian workers. We're very close. We continue to make progress, and we're going to stay here and do the work that's necessary until we get to that point.
No details have been officially released, but some U.S. media outlets report talks are centered around reducing U.S. tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, plus the auto industry, which is closely integrated on both sides of the border. If a deal is finalized, Canada will reportedly agree to lift a partial boycott of U.S. wine and liquor. Many businesses in the U.S. oppose these proposed tariffs with close trading partner Canada, arguing it drives up their cost of doing business and raises prices for consumers. Democrats argue Trump's trade policies are hurting the U.S. economy.
President Trump's tariff policy, on again, off again, arbitrary, capricious, malicious, it has hurt families in Illinois and across the country. The average family in Illinois has paid more than $2,200 more since President Trump was elected because of tariffs. It's cost the Illinois economy more than $5 billion in GDP. It's not making us stronger. It's hurting our economy and it's hurting American families.
It's not clear what a limited bilateral trade deal on these issues might mean for the larger U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade deal currently up for renewal. Jim Spellman, CGTN, Washington.
The U.S. tariff standoff with Canada is entering a new phase, with Ottawa weighing its options, but American consumers may ultimately bear the brunt of the costs. One expert warned that retaliation risks will further escalate and clouding the outlook for North American trade.
In particular, exports of lumber, of aluminum, of steel, and of automobiles, as well as potentially dairy. Those are some of the most critically important industries. Some may be hit even harder, but those are the large industries which are at risk. And of course, these tariffs end up being paid by U.S. consumers, not by the exporters. But if they lose market share, the damaging effect in Canada is very large. And I think President Trump has not accepted that fact, but the bulk of the additional costs which are levied end up being paid for by either the U.S. importing company or by the consumers, and this has a push-on effect on inflation as these costs rise. Some things the U.S. can perhaps increase domestic production, but on items such as aluminum, where Canada is a massive producer of very inexpensive electricity, the U.S. is not in a position to match those production levels. The auto industry is heavily integrated between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. It's cost already billions of dollars for the North American auto industry to adapt to these shifting, volatile tariffs. Canada has a lot of leverage in some areas. For example, Canada sends about 30% of U.S. imports of petroleum. We have massive exports of electricity, natural gas, potash. This gives us some leverage. However, we are far more dependent on U.S. trade than the U.S. is on Canada's trade. So we have leverage, yes. The U.S. is even more. Should they, the United States, choose to retaliate with even higher tariffs, and we were then pushed back, that downward cycle of tit for tat, basically throwing sand in the gears of our economy, of the two economies, would be more damaging for us. We have some power, the U.S. has more.
And still to come here on Global Business. China's daily box office remains above 100 million yuan for 41 consecutive days, highlighting the vitality of summer consumption.
A vast land of 1.4 billion people. The world's second largest economy. Home to stories of the unexpected, the unimaginable, the breathtaking. Stories that touch the soul. Feel the speed, the passion. Enjoy spectacular natural and cultural landscapes. Feel the thrill of cutting-edge innovations. Discovering China. Global Biz. China Travel. We present a China never seen before. 24/7 at your fingertips.
Welcome back. And this year, China's summer box office surpassed 11 billion yuan on Friday, which is about $1.6 billion, with daily earnings exceeding 100 million yuan mark for 41 consecutive days. Now, the Chinese mainland has seen a record 34.5 million screenings of more than 120 Chinese and international films since June. Average ticket prices are at a 5-year low, thanks to ticket discounts and other incentives to encourage movie-going. Industry estimates show that the film-related industrial chain has generated more than 410 billion yuan in value so far, boosted by China's Film Plus economy, which links movies with tourism, retail, cultural experiences. And now let's take a closer look at some of the standout titles that have been drawing crowds to theaters this summer.
This year's summer lineup covers a broad range of genres, including comedy, animation, sci-fi, war, suspense, and action. Currently leading the charge are a trio of heavyweight hits: sports comedy Kung Fu Soccer, Chinese animated film All Wishes Come True, and Sony and Marvel's Spider-Man Brand New Day. Following closely behind is the anti-war film Once Upon a Time in the Middle East. In just 10 days of release, the film has raked in over 1.2 billion yuan, catapulting it to the 4th place on the 2026 summer box office charts. On National Ecology Day, the documentary Lucid Waters and Lush Mountains hit theaters, following 8 real-life stories of green transformation.
I've heard the saying clear waters and green mountains are invaluable assets, but watching this documentary made it feel so real. You can see it happening all around us.
Also wowing audiences is Christopher Nolan's epic The Odyssey, praised for its grand and spectacular visuals. Comedy fans flocked to Make Zhonghe great again, while the fantasy drama To Your Island struck a chord with younger audiences. Across China, the growing Film Plus economy is linking movies with tourism, food, shopping, and cultural experiences. Industry estimates show the broader film-related industrial chain has generated more than 410 billion yuan in value so far this year. Zhang Mengyuan, CGTN.
And now let's get more changing dynamics analysis in China's film market. We're now joined by Du Jiayi, a research fellow at Shanghai University of International Business and Economics. Ms. Du, thank you for joining us. So we're looking at 290 million admissions and 41 straight day, 100 million yuan plus box office runs. That's very impressive. So what kind of structural shifts are taking place in film supply and audience viewing choices?
Yes, when we look at the supply side, this summer, cinemas will remain a very full schedule. Comedy, animation, science fiction, sports film, drama, all at the same time. That matters more than any single hit. It requires a steadier flow week after week. The second structural change is animation. It has become a mainstream format rather than a children's film. A successful Chinese animated film sells to families with young children and to audiences in their 20s and 30s at the same time. The third change is about how decisions get made. The reviews in the first 48 hours largely determine what happens next. And those reviews come from ordinary viewers on social media platforms. Taken together, the market has moved from depending on a few big releases to depending on whether audiences actually like what they see.
And also with cinemas shifting toward a full experience revenues, can non-ticket income from food and beverage, for instance, and revenue rentals break cinemas' over-reliance on ticket-only profits?
I think what non-ticket income really does is give operators more flexibility. That is a meaningful improvement in the revenue structure. The more interesting shift is what the cinema is becoming as a space. A lot of venues now have food services, gaming areas, VR equipment. They give people more reasons to come. I think there's one opportunity that has been underused, which is merchandise and creative products. Think about the moment someone walks out of a screening they loved. They are still in it emotionally. That is the highest point of willingness to buy anything connected to that film. Also, in the off-season, there's a lot of room to use that space better, such as screen rental, preview screenings, cast events, fan gatherings, and cooperative use. So the cinema becomes a place people come to, not just a place they watch a film in.
And also, how do you think public campaigns like the ones that we saw, which is called Movie Economy Promotion Year, help to unlock cross-chain consumption in tourism, in dining and beyond?
Films move people. This has happened again and again in China over the past few years. A film succeeds, and the town where it was shot starts receiving visitors. Some of those places were unknown before. The film gives them a reason to exist on someone's travel list. Also, a film's income should not be concentrated when it is in cinemas. In a mature market, the box office is where it begins. After that, come merchandise, themed exhibitions, brand collaborations, physical experience spaces, and that chain can run for years. China has already demonstrated the ability and the market for this. Every time a major domestic animation succeeds, the merchandise and the collaborations generate real hit very quickly. If that part is developed properly, the effect of a film on consumption is no longer limited to its run in cinemas. It becomes something a place or a brand can build on for years.
Well, thank you so much for our insights. That's Ms. Du Jiayi from the Shanghai University of the International Business and Economics. Now shifting gears to China's 100 billion yuan pet economy, the industry continues to see quality-driven upgrading in 2026. Refined and tech-enabled pet care has emerged as a mainstream consumption trend in urban areas. From Wednesday to Sunday, newly launched AI pet care products are on display at the Shanghai New International Expo Center, and Chinese-made smart pet keeping devices are emerging as a new growth driver for China's consumer goods exports this year. Pet Fair Asia 2026 has drawn more than 530,000 visitors and over 2,600 high-quality exhibitors from home and abroad. A range of brand new smart pet care items are making their global debut. Pet feeding has entered a new era of refinement plus intelligence with AI pet monitoring cameras, visual smart feeders, and automatic smart litter boxes. Now there's even a smart feeder for multi-cat households.
Our smart device adopts AI algorithms for cat facial recognition. It also uses data on cats' daily eating habits and food intake in grams to generate smart feeding recommendations. Smart devices greatly lower the barriers to cat keeping, will cater to young people's demand for science-based pet care.
We already received many good feedback from the customer to the China product in Vietnam market, and we expect that in this fair we can find maybe a suitable partner for expand in Vietnam market.
And that's going to do it for this edition of Global Business on CGTN. Thanks for being with us. I'm Lily in Beijing. Till next time, bye for now.